the cost of running is about 15% of what it is for the petrol bikes. There is a certain emotion attached to it, and it will slowly become like the mobile phones. As soon as a version is launched, in a year's time, there's some refresh comes. Most of the Indian manufacturers, the Make in India products or brands are more successful.
Hi viewers, welcome to another episode of MR Speaks, brought to you by Marketing Review. I'm Sagar and this is my colleague Mohit. We are your hosts for the day. Today we have with us Mr. Dhiraj Tripati, co-founder and COO of Electric One, which is playing an interesting role in scripting India's EV story. An IIM A alumnus, he has over 23 years of rich experience across the automobile value chain, ranging from sales to marketing to international expansion to spare parts in multiple firms across Castrol, Hero, Bajaj, etc. Thank you so much for coming over, Dhiraj.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, perfect. So let's get this started. Usually, compared to an FMCG which has a high frequency purchase, automobiles are high ticket purchases. So how integral a role brand and marketing play in diversifying the touch points to reach out to your customer? That's one. And second, since you started your career 20 years back, what are the shifts you saw in the customer behavior from back in then to now, especially after COVID?
Okay, so let's take one question at a time. So first was the role of brand and marketing, right? Yeah, so see, automobile is a very high engagement category because of its ticket size and because this is not something which you just buy it and keep it somewhere. There is a certain emotion attached to it and you are using it every day and you get attached to your bike or whatever, right? For the moment, I'm leaving aside the commercial vehicle segment, but the personal segment, it's high engagement, and that's where, wherever there's high engagement, the brand comes into play. And brand and marketing have been an integral part right from the days of the Bajaj scooters, Chetak scooters, 40, 50 years back, or Ambassador and Fiat. Okay. But now the shift, I'll come to the second one, is that, 20, 25 years back, the options were not that much. Okay. Be it in the two-wheeler segment or in the four-wheeler segment. But now what you see is that, you will struggle to name one brand, global brand, which is not there in India. Okay, right from Porsche to Lamborghini, whatever, everything is you're getting here. Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Skoda, and whatnot. Even the new ones like MG, etc. They are all here. Kia, and same in two-wheeler space. In two-wheeler space, the difference being that it's a mass market product. Most of the Indian manufacturers, the Make in India products or brands are more successful. Of course, you do have Hondas and Yamahas and Suzukis also, which are doing well. But obviously, the line share of the market remains with the Indian, big three or big four: Hero, Bajaj, TVS, and Royal Enfield. Now, having said that, there are other, niche premium segment brands also, like Triumph, Indian, Ducati. These are also there. And now Mahindra has ventured with Java, you might have read. So these are all, in the premium niche segment. Of course, Harley Davidson is there. And so these are also there, but pretty much I think our mobility needs are usually towards the mass market, and that's where most of the products in the 100cc or 125cc are they form the largest chunk of the two-wheeler segment. And maybe later on I'll come to that. There's a big story, since I handled, as I mentioned you, for the last 10 years the exports business for two leading brands, 5 years with Bajaj Auto and 5 years with Hero MotoCorp. So that's a very fascinating story as well. How these Indian brands and TVS, of course, have made such a big mark in the international exports market. I mean, more than 75 countries across the globe, these brands are selling, and most of them, in the markets, they are market leaders. Beating the Japanese and the Chinese and whatnot. So that's another fascinating story. But I think let's stick to your format and take the next question.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Dhiraj. We also wanted to cover on the new product development side as well from the automobile industry. So as you know, there's like quite an extensive time required, right, for the new product development, and the insights that on which a particular product is based on is usually 3 to 4 years old as well. So how do companies deal with this conundrum and remain agile, I would say, during the product launches, like since the cycle is very long?
Yeah, you rightly said that product development is a time-taking thing, and it has to be, because a lot of market research, first of all, goes into it. Then there is this whole design aspect which happens, and then after design comes the material sourcing, and the stability test, etc. And then last but not the least, the costing, because whatever segment the product is going to fit into, there is a price volume chart where the product has to go and sit at X price. It has to do certain volume or wherever it is intended to. So that is why it's a massive exercise, and there are so many touch points here, right from R&D to market research to design to vendor development. If you don't have the right vendors, then the costing will not work out, or the whatever you are intending to in terms of performance will not work out, etc. Now, what is happening over the years is that's another one good shift which we have seen, is that most of the players who are leading this, in any segment, I'll most probably talk about the two-wheelers. The cycle time has reduced. So earlier cycle time used to be like 6-7 years. Now it is about 4 years, if I'm not wrong. And also in case of the variants, the refresh models. So certain model is doing good, and then there is a refresh coming. That some of these companies have reduced to even 6 to 8 months kind of a period. So as soon as a product is launched, in a year's time they launch a refresh, which will have some add-on features, etc., some aesthetic changes, which you must be observing, because this category is very dynamic, and the customers are evolving with all this online exposure. Everyone is getting to see what all is there, and there are so many models and so many players. So that's why this refreshes or variants are required. And this cycle time, I am hoping, will further get reduced with more and more spends on the R&D going up, and companies putting more focus on this aspect. So it'll slowly become like the mobile phones. As soon as a version is launched, in a year's time, there's some refresh comes. Or in 2 years' time, 1.5 years' time, it completely gets changed, right? So now, and we'll talk more about that. That will more happen in EV most probably, which is where the complexity is much less as compared to the ICE, platform
Combustion
vehicles.
engines.
Yes. So there, you need to do a lot of things. The components are much more, about 2.5 to 3,000 components, which is now reduced to about 200 to 300 components in EVs. So I'm hoping that it will become more like a mobile phone going forward. I mean, in some sense, but in some sense, it will remain, the essence of automobile will remain in terms of customer expectations and after sales, etc.
That would actually be an interesting shift to watch.
Pardon me?
That will be an actual interesting shift to watch, how automobile works, like in terms of agility in coming to a mobile space altogether. So having said that,
in a sense that's already happening now. I don't know if you are watching closely, and now that I have taken a plunge, I'm in the EV space currently. I can see that the entry barrier has become so low that earlier there were hardly these 5 to 8 players, if I'm talking about two-wheeler space. Now there are about 200 to 300 players, if I'm not wrong, small to big. And because the entry barrier is low, the imports from China, the kits imports, and then assembling them here, that has been happening. Of course, all that will go through a shift. There will be a transition, and there will be a consolidation as well. But what has happened in China, the EV, their EV movement started 20 years back. They latched on to EV in about 2001 or 2002. And of course, China is a communist country, so there a lot of things were top driven. In many large cities, they simply banned petrol two-wheelers, and they said switch to EV. So that helped this thing. And then they also gave a lot of subsidies like Indian government is giving. And then, it took 20 years for them to develop, and now their economies of scale are all at a very different scale. And that's the reason they are, supplying these security kits or these bikes globally right now in EVs. They have taken a lead, no doubt about that. We are late. And that could be one of the reasons why a lot of these players have come up. But again, there is a shift going on. Again, there are A category players here, B category, and then C category. So it'll be very interesting. No one can say what will happen. Maybe it might become like a mobile market where there will be ultimately, even 3 years, 4 years down the line, there will be some 100 players. You never know. And but that 7-8 players, ruling the entire market is not going to happen. That's for sure. And it's anybody's guess whether it will be 20, 30 or 100, 150. That's very interesting shift which is going to happen here. Yeah.
Agreed, Dhiraj. Now that we are on the question of 7-8 players, we wanted to know why Indian OEMs like Hero, Bajaj, TVS are able to dominate the international business space. Like, what are the factors or the edge they have over others, and what challenges they could face from the global manufacturers like Honda, Yamaha to their pole position that they are enjoying right now?
Okay. So, couple of top 2-3 reasons, if I have to enumerate, as to why Bajaj or TVS or Hero they could do what they did in the international market is, number one, because of a very strong domestic base here, the economies of scale are really good. Okay. Now, last 3 years, India has become the largest two-wheeler market in the world, surpassing China. In that, I think there is a caveat that electric vehicles are not counted. So in terms of ICE, we are number one. So that gives a very strong edge. Most of the plants are there for the last 40, 50 years. And there's a huge, manpower base, is, supplier base, which is sitting here. And about, 2 crore plus was the annual industry here. So all that gives a very strong, manufacturing strength to these players. And when they ventured out into these international markets, say 20, 22 years, 25 years back, all these markets were at a very evolving stage of two-wheelers. Either there were Chinese, obviously, who were there already in Africa, Middle East, etc., some of the regions which I have handled. Large parts were Chinese and very low-cost products. And then there were Japanese, which were high quality, but their prices were very high. So they did not have a very strong market. There were not too many domestic players, and I'm talking about most of the developing markets. I'm not talking about the US, Europe, etc. That's where these markets are, right? And when Bajaj TVS entered, then what they did is that they took some years to show the how the Indian products are better than the Chinese. And the clear proposition, say for Bajaj, I was there for 5 years. We used to say that we are giving you a product which is, much better than the Chinese product and almost at par with the Japanese product, and at a price point which is slightly higher than the Chinese products and much lower than the Japanese products. So it's a very good sweet spot. So then slowly and gradually the customers realize that, yeah, I buy a Chinese product, but it develops a lot of issues a year down the line or 2 years down the line. Whereas if I buy a Indian product, then it is going on for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years without any issues. And then obviously Chinese had more of a export approach that just, just dump the products, and they were not going there and doing the distribution properly. Indian manufacturers, they appointed very good, strong distributors. They hired teams, and the teams used to go there and implement the same strategy what exists here in India. So going for a 3S dealership, sales, service, spare parts, genuine spare parts availability, service availability, doing a lot of service camps, studying the market properly and devising the products accordingly, working backwards, etc. So all these things happened, and of course they were smart enough to find out local strong partners. It was all a distributor model, which exists even today, because very few, like Honda, Japanese players have a tendency to set up their own companies, but Indian players only strategically they have done it in one or two large markets like Indonesia or in Colombia or Bangladesh, etc. Somewhere the local, regulatory environment also demands that you form a JV and you invest, and some local components need to be there, say 35-40%. So that's when it makes sense that you get into a JV and start doing manufacturing there rather than sending from. So these, I think, were the aspects which helped Indian brands take these positions, and it has been a very a tough journey, not easy. So if you travel to Africa, we feel Africa is like some image we have, but you go there, there are 54 countries in Africa. And if you go to West Africa and East Africa, it's completely different. You go to Latin America, the market is completely different. Some of the markets are like Africa maybe, and some of the markets are very evolved. And in some of the markets, both the things exist. The mass market also exists, and a very super premium sports category also exists. So very, very interesting if you travel and study these markets. And like, for instance, Africa is completely commercial market. So what you are saying here now, the taxi segment, there the entire two-wheeler, I'll say entire because it could be about 95% plus, is taxi. 5% is personal use. So you'll be surprised to know that. See, it's all, the products have to be no nonsense and very, very sturdy to withstand that kind of a usage. Of course, the infra is not that good. The roads, may be difficult. The usage conditions and their maintenance habits, everything, is not suited to the kind of environment that we have in India. So then you have to make your products more sturdy and, more idiot proof, I'll say, to withstand that. And in taxi also, there'll be 2 guys, 3 guys sitting, on the bike and going from point A to point B. If you Google, you'll find very interesting pictures or videos on YouTube, etc., of Africa. So all these things, these players, they mastered, and now they are experts. And the brands that I spoke about where I have worked, you can speak to the guys who are managing, and they will give you insights like any Indian player will give you insights for districts here in India. They can tell you district wise how which district is, the user habit is which way, or which kind of sub-region is behaving in what way. So that's the answer, I guess.
Yeah, seems like Indian companies has really worked hard for the African and all other markets. So Dhiraj, you coming from an EV market, and we really wanted to understand. So currently, till now, India has a great story to tell, right, from the EV perspective. But we have seen companies struggling recently, right? So what are the factors that are still need to be solved to ensure that EV becomes mainstream in the Indian market, and touch upon like the Chinese market you explained earlier?
Okay, so a lot of discussion and debate is happening on this currently, and everyone must be reading because EV has been portrayed by the government, Indian government, as the next transition. Okay, earlier they were trying to be very aggressive when they said that in 5 years all 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers will be electric. I think the Planning Commission made that kind of a statement 2 years back, but then there was a lot of pressure from the players, the OEMs, and then they retracted from that position, because just about 2-3 years back, they had made the OEMs to invest hugely on BS6 transition, the emission norms from BS4 to BS6, which obviously costs, to the companies where they have to invest in technology, in infra, etc. Obviously, some of the features which got added led to increase in cost for the customer also. But more importantly, at their back end in the manufacturing side, there was a lot of investment. Now, to recover that investment, they need a couple of years, to sell those bikes. You cannot say that you have invested and then all of a sudden you're going for a complete disruption in the technology that, you sell EV. So I think now they have understood, but at the same time, they have understood that government is serious, and, it is just about pushing the timelines a bit later. And that's it. In times to come, the technology has to shift to EV. Now, what percentage and at what point of timeline, there are some dozens of different researches which are going on in the market. So if I have to just go by the ACMA report, which I read a couple of months back, it says that, and I'll stick to two-wheelers right now. It says that by 2030, 9.9 million, or close to 1 crore, you can say, will be the EV population. And there are certain reports, even Niti Aayog's report, which is much more aggressive. It is saying that it will be twice of this number. But net, what they are all trying to say is that the shift is going to be fast. And shift is going to be faster in two-wheeler and three-wheeler as compared to four-wheelers. Now, the reason is simple. And in three-wheeler already, now if you see the figures of last 2 months, more than 50% of the sales is EV. And because it is commercial segment, and there the value proposition is very clear to the buyers. If you compare their maintenance cost, TCO is the word which is used, total cost of ownership. Of a petrol or diesel, three-wheeler as compared to the EV. In terms of two-wheelers, it is much simpler. Charging is very easy. Most of the products which are there in the market are swappable battery. You can take out the battery and then you can take it to your home, and the charger is slightly bigger than a laptop charger, and you can charge it for 4 or 5 hours. So that makes it very easy and convenient for the customer to adopt it. Rather than whatever numbers growth you are seeing in two-wheeler EV is because of this very fact. Because they do not have to depend on public charging infrastructure to develop. That is an essential ingredient for the EV four-wheelers. EV four-wheelers, cannot work if the public charging infra is not there. And they run also for a longer range. Now, in EV two-wheelers, usually, if you look at the usage, hardly about 40 to 50 kilometers is the average running. And most of the products which are selling in the EV industry right now are suiting this need of the customer. And of course, the cost of running is about 15% of what it is for the petrol bikes. For petrol, if you are running 50 kilometers and you fill in 1 liter of petrol for that, you shell out about 100 rupees plus. And here, to run the same kilometers, you shell out about 15-16 rupees, just about 2 units of electricity. If I am not wrong, 1 unit is about 8 rupees generally, and 16 rupees is what you shell out. And then you have to also go for service, regular service and maintenance, change of engine oil, cleaning, etc., so many things. Here you don't do that. For 3 years, your battery runs, and battery is like the replacement of the engine here. And then you have to change. So battery is one big investment which comes. Now there are a lot of other things which are happening, like swappable stations, swappable battery stations, which is also being experimented upon. So if that happens, then battery completely goes out. It's like energy. It's like petrol. So when you buy a bike, petrol is what you fill. There you can have battery, you go to a swappable station nearby, you check into the app where it is, and you put your old battery, there'll be a QR code, you scan, some money, whatever is there gets deducted, and you take out a fully charged battery, put it on, entire thing takes place in 2 to 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then whatever time it takes you, for you to fill a petrol, that happens here, and you walk away.
Yeah,
so that kind of a thing is also happening, yes. So all these things, I think the economies, most of it is related to the economics. And also now people are feeling that, EVs are required more than the economics part, is because of the environmental aspects. Now, as soon as sitting here in Delhi NCR, Mohit will understand, as soon as now 2 months later, what will be the situation here?
Yeah.
As soon as we are approaching Diwali, etc., this whole place becomes a gas chamber. So everyone is fed up of that, so many, diseases with respect to this, because of the pollution happening. So everyone wants to get rid of that. So these two factors are very important. One is the pocket friendly, and second is environment friendly. That is what is driving. I think in four-wheelers, the economics are totally different. But you will see that two of our leading OEMs, one where I've worked in the past, Mahindra and Tata, they are going very aggressive. And if you see, there is a huge waiting period for Tata Nexon
Yeah.
EV. And Mahindra has also is coming out with a lot of EV products. They've completely hived it off as a separate division. And all of these players, they are going very, and of course, there are a lot of very good startups which have come into this space, even in the CV space, as well as Altigreen is one, Euler Motor in Noida, it's there. They have come into, three-wheelers. A lot of other very interesting startups are getting into this space, developing very state-of-the-art EV products. So I think, I don't know, I forgot the initial question, but I think that's why EV is gaining traction. And of course, government is giving subsidy. So that's another big thing. In two-wheelers, the subsidy, for high-speed products, which is registered for FAME. FAME is the scheme,
Yeah.
Fast of Mobility, So there could be a subsidy as high as 40 to 45,000 rupees for each bike, which I think players like Ather, etc., and some of the other OEMs are getting, because they have qualified for Make in India and they are approved under FAME scheme, and that subsidy they are getting. So initially, since the bill of material cost will be higher, and if they just have to sell it, then the cost will be high. So that's why government is giving the subsidy to enable these products to to get entrenched into the market, because the customers may feel that the cost is very high.
Yeah.
And I think these subsidies they'll be there for another few years, and then slowly and gradually the technology improvement and the sourcing efficiencies will gain, and then the cost will come down maybe to the ICE engine levels. Then the subsidies will be taken off.
That's actually nice to know, Dhiraj. So we have a last question for the interview. You have experienced both the startup and the corporate worlds right now. So what are the nuances that people miss out, and what message do you want to give people who are starting their corporate journey right now?
They are starting their corporate journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are the nuances they miss out in what?
Like you have seen both the worlds, corporate and startup. So what are things that people usually don't talk about, like while choosing what to go, where to go?
Okay. So very difficult question in a sense, because I'll tell you, I'll rather go into a little depth. So when we passed out from the colleges, 25, 30 years back, 25 years back, not 30, yeah, maybe. At that time, the environment was totally different. Or I'll say that even 10 years back, the startup environment was completely different. When I say it was different, a major, one of the most important thing which I want to highlight here is the funding environment. So this entire VC ecosystem that you see now, and every day you read in the newspapers and on digital, medium, the valuation, there is so many unicorns formed, and Sequoia invested these many millions into X startup, or SoftBank invests, or there's so many other hundreds of VCs, venture capitalists. This whole thing was not there at all in India. This was all a US phenomena by and large. And from there it has come. And I think the Modi government, when it came in 2014, I think they started focusing on startup ecosystem. And I think that was a very visionary thing for them to do. Because, if no startups come, then you will have to keep relying on the corporates, which were a startup 50 years back, maybe. All these were on some day they were a startup, right? Someone started Bajaj, right? Someone started a Tata Motors, etc. And in fact, Maruti was a startup by the government of India, right?
Right.
So these are all startups, but in a very different sense. When 25 years back, someone says that why don't you start your own enterprise? First question will come, oh, where will I get money? It needs a lot of money. Now the thing is different. Now the thing is, if you have a powerful idea, then money will come.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is the reason that, it is so heartening to see that, so many young and bright guys who are coming out of the college, just out of their IIT or engineering or out of their MBAs, are venturing out and doing startups. Think of an OYO 10 years back or 20 years back. Ritesh Agarwal at 21 years of age, he doesn't even have mustache complete even now. I think he's now also 27 or something, right? And he started this just because of a powerful idea, and then money flows, right? Money comes if you have a powerful idea and you're convinced about it, and the business model is robust. And look at where Oyo is today. Now look at Ather. We are talking of the EV space. Ather is a live example. The guy is Tarun Mehta and his partner. They're out of the IIT Mumbai, and the first thing they do is set this up. And they've taken 8 years. They've taken the very hard route. They have done their own R&D, and come from scratch. They have developed a vehicle, which is now selling so well. And then the likes of Hero MotoCorp, which is the market leader, has invested into it. That's the power of their conviction, right? That they were convinced about it, that they can develop a product. And 8 years back, they had the vision that market will move towards EV, that they developed it. Okay. All of these guys, guys like Tarun and all, they could have also, taken up jobs in MNCs, so many MNCs, so many corporate world is there where they could have, but they were convinced about their thoughts or their concept or idea, whichever startup idea they have. So that's one big change which is there between the startup environment, which was there 10 years back or 15 years back to now. I'll say that 20 years back, 25 years back, there was no startup environment. Whoever had ventured into a startup was a very, very strong guy, I'll say, in terms of his conviction of his idea. And funding, etc., were equally difficult. And that's why if you see, maybe you guys are too young to know that, but 20, 25 years, 30 years back, most of the bright guys from the IITs, and IITs are one of the best engineering institutions in the world, they used to migrate to the US. They'll go to Silicon Valley, and there they will get this whole startup environment. They'll do their startups. And so many stories are there. Now it is all happening here also. In fact, the companies are doing well here, and then they're setting up offices in US, Europe, etc. So coming back to your original question, I think the question to be answered for whether coming out of your college or MBA should go to a corporate world or a startup is completely your inner calling, what you are convinced about. If you have a strong idea, you can go for it. If you have a strong idea but not yet convinced, go for corporate world, work for a few years and develop that idea further. And then at a right time, choose your partner. I mean, it's usually very helpful to have partners. I mean, there'll be very few people who will be a lone rangers in the startup world, and then, get hold of some VCs and or seed fund, etc., beg, borrow, steal, and start your, startup journey. For the corporate world, I think, what should I say? There is so much wisdom on LinkedIn or here and there, which is sitting there. So whatever I'll say will be sounding cliched. But I think you have to, speak to yourself and understand what you are good at. Not because you are getting an offer of from a certain company for a certain function, that you should take it. I think even if your offer is less, but you feel that that's my strong area, that's my forte, or that's where my interest lies, you should take that offer rather than going for something where you don't feel valued or you don't feel that you are adding any value, but simply because at the end of the month there's a assured salary, good salary which is coming, and that's why you should take it, is my thought. You should go with the job offer or whatever is there in front of you, more from your interest and your whatever you feel is your inner calling with respect to a particular function or a particular stream, rather than just going by the salary or the CTC being offered, package being offered, etc. Is my take. I don't know. It could work out both ways. I mean, sometimes you take that just to get a good launching pad, and then you get into what your inner calling is. So that was one point I was making for someone who's starting a corporate career. And second point, which I always make, and all your alumni students who worked with me or under me, also I used to tell them, is that once you are out of the college, whatever renowned college you have graduated from, be it IIT, IIM, IFT, XLRI, whatever, or even your foreign, some of the renowned colleges in US, Europe, etc. Once you start the job, then you just forget that you are from there. Okay, just try to forget that thing and just try to learn new things, because whatever good college, whatever the best in the best of the globe, you go there, and there are so many series, what they don't teach you in Harvard Business School. So leave us out Harvard Business School. You can replace that Harvard Business School with any of that IIFT or IIM or whatever XYZ IIT. What they don't teach you there. So there is a lot of learning when you come to the real world. Okay, when you join an FMCG company, etc. After some of these guys who do IIT and then IIM, they are obviously brilliant. Otherwise, they will not get through there. But then there is something called EQ, which is different from IQ. That's where the learning starts, because EQ will not be taught in the colleges. EQ ka subject is there, OB is there, organizational behavior, and this and that, all theoretical things. But when you go and sit in front of a trader, he will teach you the real essence of life, how things work, and how you need to, conduct with him, or strike a rapport with him to do the business, or explain him something new. Otherwise, he will say that, guys like you, there are so many guys every year they come. If you go and speak to, say, a Hindustan Lever distributor who will be there for decades, he'll say, don't teach me, I can teach you. Okay, so there you have to forget that and learn new things, learn how the real world is. And there are so many learnings you can learn from anyone, right? From the watchman who's working in a company to any customer down there in the street. He'll tell you insights, which can which can be developed into powerful business ideas and lead to the formation of large companies, successful companies. So these are the two bits I think I want to just say, and that's about it.
Thank you so much, Dhiraj. It was interesting speaking with you to understand certain nuances which we earlier didn't know about automobile industry as a whole, and I'm pretty sure our readers will also find it interesting. Thank you so much once again for having us, coming over and doing an episode of MR Speaks with us. Thank you so much, Dhiraj.
Thanks a lot, Sagar and Mohit, and all the best for this very, very interesting thing that you have started, apart from your, the regular corporate jobs that you're doing. I wish you all the best in both your career as well as in your pursuits like this MR Speaks. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.